So welcome everybody to the fourth webinar of the Starts for Africa project. And this webinar is about project management, or the basis of project management. And before starting the webinar itself, I would like just to shortly introduce you to the Starts for Africa project. Starts for Africa project is financed by the European Commission, and the partnership is formed by 4 organizations in Europe and other 5 organizations from the African part as associated partners. And the project itself is formed by the residencies program, the STARTS Prize in Africa program, the Academy program that this webinar series of webinars is part of, and we will organize physical trainings in the African partners countries as well in spring next year. Of course, the community building and the stylage. So yeah, like I said, this is meant to be like a webinar about the development of project ideas, more in general, but of course with a focus on the intersection between science, technology, and arts, being a part of the STARTS program, of course. So the agenda for today, it's like we will start with a short overview, talk about a little bit about the objectives and goals of projects, target audiences, community building, the timeline, and the stakeholders. And as was proposed in the beginning by Blair, I would like to suggest, if you agree, to at the end to do a little bit of networking, of course, in the hope that more people will join us. I mean, in the last couple of webinars, we had a little bit more people in the audience, but nevertheless, don't worry about that. So my proposal would be to have a short networking session at the end, and to see if we can find interesting connections among ourselves. So to go on, like the overview, one of the main things about the projects in the crossroad of science, technology, and arts are projects, and we are all familiar with projects, but they have some specifics on their own, on its own, that we need to be mindful about. Science, technology, and arts are 3 sectors that each one of them has a specific language, a specific approach. And one of the lessons we learn working in this intersection is that even though on the strategic level, those 3 fields are keen to collaborate, to work together, and also by strategic documents from the European Union and global-wise as well, are appointed as one of the key factors in order to gain and to power innovation and growth. It's not so easy to implement or to develop projects in that intersection. And from the experiences we have, is mainly because we have to manage 3 different worlds, but those worlds, like all the worlds, are constructed by persons, by people, and not all artists or scientists or engineers or technology people are keen towards working in the intersection or in intersectoral approach, with intersectoral approaches. So actually, even though institutions or programs are pointing their development, their goals towards this finding synergies between those 3 words or approaches, I have to say that a lot of time, at least in my experience, in our experience, it always goes on the feelings and the willingness that people in those fields have towards this cross-sectoral approach. To be very plastic, some scientists don't really see well the collaboration with artists because they don't really understand what are the benefits. And even though we try to persuade and to talk with them and show the results of those collaboration, sometimes it doesn't doesn't happen. Vice versa, sometimes artists doesn't really see how can then influence or help science in developing, or they have ideological or philosophical double thoughts about helping scientists in developing something that can or should or will have to go on the market and gain profit, and it's somehow against their norms or their perceived perception of the world. And a lot of times people working with technology are really keen towards having concrete results, fast results, and are not keen somehow in towards experimentation, towards like Beckett say, one European theater director, the approach that says fail again, fail better, but they're really focused in concrete results that can gain empowerment, can gain new results, new protocols. And in these three words, these three approaches, we needed to find the right persons. And we invest a lot of time, not just in the developing of the idea, that it's, of course, is crucial, but also in how to manage the people, the persons involved in the project itself. So, for example, we are now involved in one of the STARTS project in Europe going on. It's called S+T+ARTS, and we now finished the long period of finding the proper candidates for the 10 residencies we are planning to implement in the 10 months of the next year. And we took 6 months for finish this process, and we have 129 proposals from artists, and we did a long process of narrowing down first to 20 proposals and then to 10 proposals, talking directly to artists and involving the researchers and the scientists of the partnership itself, so that the artist proposing the projects for residencies from the beginning could step in contact with those peoples, and of course vice versa. And we didn't really wanted to put for the artist to put so much effort in the applications itself, in the proposals itself. So we just opt for a basic proposal, of course, describing the previous projects of the artist and the competences he or she could bring in the projects. And the project itself was just a project idea, a short draft, an vision of the project. And during this process, with the scientists and engineers, the artist could get feedback to develop this vision even further. Of course, at the end, to have 10 residencies project proposals that have the same feeling, the same, let's say, chemistry among scientists, artists, and engineers to be a success. So this is like one of the examples we somehow tried to implement also in the STARTS environment in order to focus on that. So one, let's say, gentle or a nice wish from our side would be, don't forget that you're working, of course, on projects, but you're working with people, and this is the most important thing. People have emotions, feelings. We are all somehow, we tend to forget in the world of projects that we are all humans, and we don't take in consideration that sometimes we just don't fit with one another. And there are methods and methodologies how to overgrow this, how to support this. But if there's no chemistry and there's no will to work with one another, the way will be much, much harder. Okay, so let's go on. I'm sure that every one of us heard about SMART goals or objectives. SMART, it's an abbreviation for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals or objectives, or objective or main objective, and goals and objectives. There's a lot of different way to approach the theory, but in practice, I'm always keen towards projects or project ideas, project proposals that have a mixture between more SMART goals and some few less SMART, in a way that big projects, development projects, innovation projects, sometimes are really, let's say, really can be really abstract and can tackle really innovative approaches or goals, and it's not all the time possible to be really specific or really to put measurables inside goals. So when it's possible, or when from the point of view of parts of the project that can be more specific, go for it. But of course, if you want to, why not change the world? This could be a goal as well, but in the right with the right approach. To be more plastic about the SMART objectives, what does this 5 words, like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, mean? So the specific goal, it's about what is the goal? What is the goal about? Here I find an example of a goal that it's specific because it says that this person or this organization wants to cut the 6 hours he or she spent processing data in Excel every day to 3 hours by implementing an improved work routine. This is a really specific goal. And how we can measure that? I'll track the time I spent processing Excel data every day and watch as the time decreases. How we can be attainable with that? Do I have the skill or the resources for doing it? I have access to Excel ebooks that will help me learn how to be more efficient when using Excel formulas. Why is this goal important, or with other word, relevant? Because this person spends 6 hours processing data in Excel, and that's too much of his or her time. Cutting that time in half would ensure that this person have more time for other work activities. And about time boundness, when I will achieve the goals I've set, I want to cut the time I spend on Excel calculations in half by the 15th of next month. So, I mean, I'm pretty aware that this approach sounds super fancy in theory, but in the real world with real projects, it can't be achieved every and each time. As I said before, if we are working with innovation, a lot of time we work with things that are not known yet, that are hard to be, let's say, enclosed in this frame. I would say that the goals, it should be like from 1 till 4 or 5 maximum, should divide the task, like I said before. So if you put the first goal to, I don't know, the project wants to innovate the field of collaboration between time measurement and virtual reality, this can be more abstract, and then to add a few more, be a little bit more specific, and try to achieve or try to get all the 5 points of the SMART goals. Of course, if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to ask or to comment. I could understood from the presentations that there's a lot of knowledge in this group as well. So feel free to share. Feel free to point me wrong. It's not a rocket science, and as I said in the beginning, it's more about approaches and different experiences. So if you have a question or a comment, you're welcome. You're more than welcome to interrupt and to interact. One of the things that from my point of view, it's one of the most important ones in project management and project development. And often we somehow at least in the creative sector and in the cultural sector, tend to forget. I know, because I studied project management also in industry and in research, that a lot of time the project starts from the result, from the outcomes, or even from the impact the organization wants to achieve, rather than from the goals or from the activities. Because in the cultural and creative sector, a lot of time happen that we start from the point of view of what we want to do, or what we know to do. So what the activities we want to pursue, rather than from the impact or from the outcomes of the project itself. So we don't start from the question what we want to improve, or what we want to have an impact on. We start from the point of view what we want to do, or what is the problem or question we want to tackle in, like, society-wise. But I think that a good project have a really great emphasis on the results itself. And from our point of view, what our projects like PINA, this organization I'm a leader, we really want to do the next step and focus even more on the outcomes of the projects and the impact of the project. The results of the projects are, in this like logical framework model, are divided in three subgroups: the project outputs, the project outcomes, and the project impact. The outputs are the ones that are really measurables, and that's a little bit more connected to the activities and to somehow to the internal monitoring we are doing of the project. To give you some examples, if we work with workshops, if we are teaching professionals to, I don't know, to raise their level of skills, the outputs are the number of the workshops we will going to do, or we done in the project. An output is the number of the persons that were the participants, let's say, trained by the workshops. The outcome, it's rather what those persons learned and how they use the knowledge they gain in our workshops to make a change, to make a difference. What are the benefits of those participants, and how those benefits had an impact on the working or on the life or the works of those participants. And of course, the impact is how those outcomes influences and make a difference, make some consequences in a wider area of the project interest area. So I don't know if you follow me in this logic, but a lot of time projects focus just on outputs because they are easy to achieve and they are far easier to measure than outcomes and impact. You can really measure the number of workshops, you can easily measure the number of people involved in the workshops, but if you need to measure the outcomes, you face some interesting questions. And of course, how to measure an impact is even difficult. After a few slides, we will talk about monitoring and evaluation as well. But for now, I would like just to point out that a lot of time in the science, art, and technology projects, the outcomes and the impact, it's still not taken so much in consideration. There's a lot of focus on outputs, on like if there will be an installation or a performance or a research paper, and there's still so less effort put it in how to have proper outcomes. And of course, the STARTS program, it's under the DG Connect, the Directorate General Connect of the European Commission, that it's the General Directorate that it's working with business and development. So the STARTS project are the ones that are somehow involving the art and cultural sector in order to gain, of course, innovation and to gain development. And we need to put a greater effort how to measure outcomes of the project, how this project can influence, I don't know, for example, the researchers or the research area, the research institutions involved in the project, or even though how those projects can have an impact or an outcome towards the market. Or this can be project that can solve concrete issues science and technology had. And we are still in the phase that we as SPINA, we are now entering in new STARTS projects, somehow trying to tackle these fields as well. We work a lot with leadership programs, we work a lot with soft skills empowerment programs, we develop a lot of methodologies for soft skills, and we actually find out when we analyzed previous STARTS project that there's still a lack of that kind of approaches, and this will be also one of the approaches we will put in motion for the STARTS for Africa training courses we are going to implement next year in 4 African countries. So for to have another representation, a more, let's say, more funny or more playful presentation of the outputs, outcomes, and impact. Like the outputs, as I said, are more about what we done, what the activities done, and the outcomes are more about the what those outputs generates in our target groups, what problems they solved, what behavior they change, and what new possibilities and learnings they opened up. And those outcomes hopefully generates impact to change that you want to make the change or to be the change that you want to see in the world. And we tried in some big projects we were involved, at least nation-wide, because it was easier. We work with the Slovenian Academy of Science and Art, and we actually did an ex ante, ex ponte analysis of impact and the outcomes of our science, art and science laboratory. We opened an art and science laboratory 3 years ago, and before opening it, the Academy of Science and Art did a qualitative analysis of our stakeholders, with our stakeholders, and after 3 years of our work, they did it again. And the analysis of the outcomes and impact, I had to admit, it was really, really hard to read from my point of view, because our stakeholders didn't really felt the outcomes or the impact we wanted them to feel. So it was a really, really hard mirror to see ourselves in. But on the other hand, when we were able to manage the emotional part of that over a couple of hours, days, then we had a really, really great material in order to improve our activities, our approaches towards target groups, towards our stakeholders. So it's really like I said before, I really love to quote Beckett: fail again, fail better. Failure, it's an essential part of growing, it's an essential part of projects, and of course, it's a huge part of innovating itself. And I've mentioned target audience a couple of times already during this session. And target audience are one of the things that are quite important, I mean, essential for a project, but are the ones that are really hard or a little bit harder to define, but are the one that are the most important for a project. And we need to identify our key audiences and for which the project is intended. And of course, like I said before, if we start from the point of view of the activities, if we just want to, if we start from the point of view, okay, I know how to do 3D printing workshops, and I want to improve, and I want to teach people how to do 3D printing workshops. Our target audience are people interested in the 3D printing technology. And then, of course, we can say, yes, we have our target audience, but we need to ask what we know about them, who they are. There are a lot of methodologies, like, for example, persona, to imagine concrete people with concrete criteria to really define what kind of people you are targeting with your activities. And of course, you need to ask yourself what the target audience itself bring into the project. If the target audience is just willing to learn about 3D printing, or, for example, they will probably want to know also about 3D modeling or 3D design or even 3D scanning, for example. And then you have also some answers of how they can contribute to the final outcome. But this is really a simple example I'm pointing out right now about 3D printing. But if we change the point of view, as I mentioned before, and if we ask ourselves, what is the outcome or even the impact we want to achieve with our project? If we want to, for example, make people teach or make for the people the possible to build their own spare parts for, I don't know, washing machines, and because they now, if something broke, you need to buy a new piece, a big piece of washing machine, even though it broke just a small part of a plastic component. You can design this and you can print this and you can have a huge impact on that. And probably you will need to reshape the project in a way that I think that teach people how to 3D model and 3D print, it's far more difficult than to build up a community center, for example, or a shared space, a shared knowledge space that offer knowledge from various point of view, for various skills, and tackle this exact outcome we want to bring. We want to have the impact we want to have. So it's really, everything is so connected, and it's really hard to not change something that you did before when you come to think about the results, outcomes, impact. You need to rethink the goals as well, and you need to rethink all the other components of the project logical framework. But the target audiences are one of the essential key points, and it's not just about for whom the project is, but it's also how the project can be influenced. But the audience itself, one of the big questions, one of the big approaches we are having, working in Africa, working in the frame of the first STARTS project in Africa, we really don't want to go to the African countries and come there as the subjects that are supposed to have the knowledge. It will be more of an let's say mutual impollination process. We don't know much about Africa as from the European point of view. It's the first mistake we are doing all the time. It's calling it Africa. Africa is the biggest continent. It has so many different countries, and we are going in 10 days' time to visit 4 of those countries that we will work with to understand how we can find synergies rather than teach people. What are the needs and what are the mutual needs, and when those synergies can be met, and what can be a mutual process that can have benefit from both point of view. So this approach with target audience, it's from our opinion the best one. And this talks about, of course, the community impact. The community impact in the STARTS projects is, again, one of the fields that is lacking of attention. But it's not just about the STARTS program. In general, the technological development is so fast, and it happened so quick that a lot of time, not a lot of time, the majority of the time, researchers are not even, that they don't taking in consideration, and for sure they are not trained to have an eye on the community, on the impact that this development will have on society and communities. The STARTS projects, of course, the part that the arts brings in are often connected with empathy and how to enhance this empathical approach in this, let's say, rigid world of technology. Hence, we need to take in consideration what are the impact that the project will have on the community. And we need to think that in front as much as possible. So we need to write an observation about the community impact you think the project will have, and this also will impact your goals, your results, how the project will contribute to more cooperation in the future. I mean, this is one thing that PINA is really working with. We believe in cooperation, and we foreseen a society that will invest more in methodologies to how to cooperate better, how to work together better, not just person to person, but also field to field. And of course, can we envision what will happen after the end of the project? And again, it's connected with the outcomes and the impact. What will change? And those changes are not always positive. Projects can generate also negative impact. And we are somehow not admitting this to ourselves. We perceive ourselves that we are the good ones, that we don't have and don't want to generate negative impact. But it's not like this all the time. For example, I think that every one of us has this machine in our pocket. And even though some artists in the beginning of the 90s did a lot of effort to reflect on what impact this 24-hour, 7 days per 7 connectivity can have on our society, in our behavior, there wasn't a proper studies or proper investment on reflection on how technology can really change society in not years, months. You can probably imagine how the internet, or some of us or you remember how the internet changed the world really quickly, and like in a decade was a really like totally different way of living. I said in the beginning that right now I'm not in Slovenia, I'm in Kosovo, so I'm outside the European Union, and after like the first half an hour being here outside European Union, outside Schengen, I realized how spoiled we are. Slovenia entered the Union in 2001 and entered the Schengen area in 2010. And we, in like 10 years' time, became really, really super spoiled about currency, about border control, about like things that were part of my life, that's still the majority of my life. And we don't really, our development, our economic paradigm that it's built on constant growth doesn't really take so much in consideration what are the outcomes and the impact of this development that on the society. And of course, the empathy that arts has, some arts has, and artists, of course, can be a huge help from that point of view. And to be a little bit more technical, every project has a timeline, needs to have a timeline. And it's like we need to briefly discuss the key dates, the key moment of the project, the key I don't know, clusters of activities, and what activities to put in the start. It's always good to start with the need assessment, some research. There are various approaches and methodologies in order to do so. Here we listed, like, for example, focus groups. You can do SWOT analysis. And of course, it's when you need to do to somehow do some protocols in how to cooperate in the project team. And as I said in the beginning, in the STARTS environment, the project team can be a really heterogeneous group of people with totally different approach, and not even just approach and knowledge and experiences, also different values and different vision of the future in the project itself. So it can be a really challenge, and this challenge needs to be tackled from the beginning, and then to list the activities and the development of the prototypes and deliverables, and of course the testing and the prototypes and the scaling up if and when needed. And of course, we tend a lot of time to forget to evaluate and to monitor the processes throughout the project. And as I said, from our experience in our project, when we did the stakeholder impact analysis, we did a lot of work in identifying the important stakeholders of the project, and we divided them like internal, external, and we prioritized them, and we did a list of them. We set the goals for each one of them, and even though we did all this work, at the end, at least from my point of view, I wasn't really satisfied with the impact of the project. But as I said, it was quite a lesson learned, and is now quite a basis for upgrading and evolving our approach. And of course, we were talking about evaluation. Think about what evaluation methodologies can support your project from the point of view of what key measurements or key elements you want to measure from the point of view of the results and the goals. In the framework of the project, it's always good to have regular meetings and to define from the beginning the key indicators that needed to be checked, to have, for example, a monitoring committee apart from the steering or the board of the project, and potentially like external evaluators when it makes sense, because somehow when we are so involved in projects, we tend not to see what is missing or what can be done better or differently, and we need to set milestones, and after each and every one of the milestone, do some quality control and to adapt next steps. You were always, or you probably heard a lot of time, every project, it's a live organism, it's change, and we need to adapt on that. We need to evaluate and to see and to change things on the fly for improving the project as it's going. And at the end of the project, check what was done, the quality assessment, what results did we achieve, as I said before, not just from the point of view of the outputs, but of the point of view of outcomes and impact. And of course, how you will, or we will, or we should measure the outcomes and the impact. And after how much time we are now for some projects obligated to measure impact and outcomes after 5 years after the ending of the project. So we need to plan this in advance in order to be prepared how we will approach something that as a project ended 5 years ago. So it can be quite frustrating if you don't know how and what you will measure. Well, I jumped in the beginning, sorry for that. Of course, now it's time for Q&A. I would stop sharing my screen. I will reshare after, because there are emails from, it's my email and my colleague email Maya. She should be here with me today, but as unfortunately we travel a lot and her flight had a delay, so she's hopefully on her way to Riga, Latvia. But here I am, you are stuck with me, and if you have some question, comments, feel free to ask or to add to my, or to comment, or to develop some thoughts. So if someone have feedback, I would be really happy to hear your feedback. Okay, we have a question in the chat. The recording will be published on the STARTS channel, STARTS YouTube channel, and STARTS Facebook channel. And we will send via email the email group of the STARTS for Africa communication channels. Any other comments, questions, constructive critiques, for example? The question is, what are the methodologies needed for such collaborations? I mean, there are various methodologies. It depends. The methodologies depend properly on the let's say, are quite case specific, and they can tackle different fields. But I can share with you one document that was super helpful, at least for me. I will just sorry, I will send it on the chat as well. This is a document that was developed under another STARTS project. It's called the Collaboration Toolkit, and it says a lot about proper methodologies, or at least approaches in the STARTS environment. I will share it on the chat in just a moment. Okay, now it's uploading. Yes, I said in the beginning, Christiana, that I mean, in the context of Africa, as I said, we are not really, we don't want to come there as the teachers. So we are now exploring and learning and analyzing in order to find out what actually exists, and we are really super amazed what realities already exist, institutions, organizations. But of course, it's different from country to country. Africa, it's a continent that it's really enormous and magnificent, and the countries have a lot of difference. And what we learn from our experience is that, as I said in the beginning, it's always like a human. At the end, we are humans, we are persons, and there's a lot about like the feeling, the chemistry among people. So we are putting a lot of efforts in actually we have methodologies how to talk to people, how to build up, how to know each other, how to talk about values, how to talk about how to raise philosophical questions, how to talk about emotions and feelings, how we cope with stress, how we cope with various things that can happen during projects, and those support us in order to identify people that share a little bit of our approach, and at the end it's an ideology, and we tend to work with these organizations. But of course, we have our expertise in project management, in financial planning, administration as well. But at the end, if the chemistry is fine, you always find solutions for everything else. So this is like our approach. So I mean, me and my colleague Maya are going for 9 days from the 10th till the 19th of December. We're going to visit 4 different countries: Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, and Tanzania. We'll spend just a couple of days in each of the countries because we want to meet the host institutions of the projects in person. We want to visit the facilities for the training that we will have later in the spring, but mainly because we want to show ourselves there, to meet people in person, and to start developing this relations. At the end, it's like it's in a relationship as well. Okay, let's reshare I will reshare my screen, because as I said, there are our contacts. This is Maya's and my mail. And if you need help, support, questions, don't hesitate to contact us. We will be happy to respond and to answer to your questions. So borut.yerman at pina.c. And of course, at the end, we have two more webinars. The 5th of December is what are the success factors, and how we define a successful project. And why I said two, because we moved the webinar from the 21st of November, defining opportunities, on the 7th of January, because we want to take the opportunity of our trip to Africa to find more about defining opportunities in Africa, and to be properly prepared for that, to be more concrete from that point of view, because of course funding is one really important factor in the project's realization. So if you don't have additional questions or comments, I will really deeply thank you for your attendance and your support. And I hope that our path will cross in the future as well. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.